All right, guys, we're back here now. We're gonna see what we can do with this motor in this thing. Like I said, we're not gonna use it. We're gonna use a small block Chevy, and so we're gonna. But I want to see if this thing will start because I talked to some people, and this thing hadn't been started for probably 30 years. It's been a long time. This thing was restored back in the 70s or 80s. It's been a while since it's been started. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what we can do. It does turn over freely, which, you know, there's no point in messing with it if it doesn't do that. But we'll let me get a battery hooked up and we'll go from there. All right. We got one cable here hooked to the starter, but we do not have a negative cable, a ground cable. So we're going to improvise. And we're going to use a set of jumper cables. You guys can see all that, right? Yeah, okay. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take, well, let me get my battery charger over here first to keep my battery charged up. All right. So we're going to put our battery charger clamps on the battery, like so. And then we're going to take our jumper cables, and we're going to put both sides of the jumper cables on the battery. Whoop, that one jumped off. On the battery charger clamp, like that. That one right behind it. And then we're going to take the other end of these jumper cables, and we're going to connect it somewhere on the body. I mean the engine, probably right here. There's a pipe right here, metal pipe that's hooked to the motor. So we'll clamp both of those on there, and that's going to should give us a pretty decent ground to the engine. Take this remote start button we got here and put it on the starter. In case you guys want to see that, I'll show it to you. We'll get you in a little closer now that we got the battery hooked up. Get you in here where you can see what's going on. Okay. So you've got your cable coming from your battery right there to the main post on the starter, and then you got a small post on the inside that's would go to the ignition switch. So I jumped that remote start button from that post to the battery cable. So when you push the button, it runs power through it and back to that post there, which should turn the engine over. Let's see. Whoop. Sorry about that. Let's see here. All right, that should turn the engine over when I hit that. And I've got transmission fluid in the cylinder, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take an old shirt and I'm going to lay it up here and kind of cover up these spark plug holes so I don't shoot transmission fluid across the shop. If you're outside, it doesn't really matter, but we're not. We're inside, so we don't want to make a mess. So let's see what happens here. Starter's kind of weak. Keeps popping out. Well, the shirt's moving, which means we got compression. All right, so should be good to go there. Get all that crap off of there. All right. Now we're going to do a compression test. You guys probably never seen one of these before. This is old school stuff right here. Ball camp compression tester. Okay, so this thing is a push-in compression tester, basically. So you've got these different fittings that you can put on the tester. One's curved and one's straight. I'm going to use the straight one. And basically, you just plug it in there. Plug it in there like that. And you just hold it in the hole. You shove this down into the hole, spark plug hole, and it tells you your compression. So let's do that. And we'll do it one cylinder at a time. Keep this t-shirt kind of over here to hopefully keep from making too much of a mess. All right. Let's do this one first, cylinder number 1. Hold that in there. Come on. All right, we got about, you can see that. Got about 125 in that one. That's pretty good compression for a truck that ain't been started in 30 years. But you also got to remember we poured oil in the cylinders, so that's going to help with the compression a little bit. It's gonna boost the compression up. So I'm sure it's probably not that good if you don't have oil in it. But I didn't want to run it dry like a lot of guys do. All right. Try this one. If I can get that starter to go. There we go. That one's got right around 125 as well. Not bad. All right, let's try number 3. Gotta hold this thing in there pretty tight. Battery's getting weak. That one's got around 115. Let me turn my battery charger on. Get some juice going here. See if we can get any better than what we got. I don't know if we can or not. Try it and see. I've got about 115 out of that one. That's not bad. Over 100. That's good. I don't know what the compression ratio is on this motor, but it's probably around 1.8 to 1, 1.7.5 to 1. It's not a high compression engine because it's from the 40s, so they didn't make high compression engines until like the 60s. All right, let's try this number 4 cylinder. All right, that one there is around 115 as well. Not too bad. All right, number 5. Starter's getting hot, I can smell it. Whew. Wow, that one there's 140. Look at that. Not bad. That's the highest one so far, is 140. That's pretty good. You guys see that, right? Okay. All right, let's try last one, number 6. See what we get out of it. $135 out of it. So we got anywhere from, got 2 cylinders that's 115, two that's 125, one that's 135, and one that's 140. So, you know, for an engine that ain't been ran for a long time, that's pretty good compression. But again, we got oil in the cylinders, so, you know, it's going to have compression. All right, now, you guys, if you've watched videos on YouTube before, you've seen on these old motors, you know, you got to check for spark. Usually got to take the points and clean them. You got to clean your contacts, clean wires and all that. I'm not going to do all that on the video because you guys have probably seen it 100 times. So I know I've got compression. So now I want to know if I have spark. But in order to make sure I have spark, I'm going to take the points and I'm going to clean them. I'm going to you know, check the plug wires and all that, clean the spark plugs, and put everything together. And then when I'm done with all that, I'll come back and we'll do a check for spark, okay? But, you know, I could put a spark plug on it and check for spark now, but most likely the points are probably corroded, and, you know, there's wires that are corroded and all that. So let me do all that first, and then we'll get back and we'll see what we got, all right? So hold on. I'll be back. All right, guys, we're back here with this engine here. So, yeah, I got all the spark plugs in except the first one, so I can check my firing order, see if the rotor's pointing at number one. So I'm going to do that. I got wires hooked up. I got a red wire going to the positive side of the coil, and I'm going to hook it up to this wire here that's connected to the battery cable that's going to the starter. So that'll give me power to the coil. And one thing you want to remember, if you don't know how to hook up a coil, is you got to remember your spark plug is screwed into your engine block. I clean the plugs too. They don't look too bad, so I just clean them up. But anyhow, your spark plug screws into your spark plug hole, which is basically a ground. And this is a negative ground, so if you're hooking up your coil, you always want to hook up a hot wire to the positive side, and then the spark goes through to the negative side and to the distributor, and then for the distributor, it goes back to the coil and shoots the spark into the spark plug, and of course it goes to ground, which is your engine block. So you want to hook hot to negative on the coil and your distributor, because it's in line with going to the engine block eventually. Hook negative to your distributor. So that's how it runs. It runs positive wire from the battery to the positive side, negative side goes down. You can see it going down there to the distributor right there. And what I've done, I've stripped all these wires back. Actually, I cut them and got fresh ends on them, so I got a good connection on them. The points are cleaned up. They look good. I took them out and sanded them down. You guys have seen that probably 1,000 times. I'm not going to show you that. But I want to do a compression test, or crank this thing over so I can get compression on number one cylinder and check my rotor to make sure it's pointing. And on this old truck, I don't know if you can see it very well, but right back in there is a hole in the bell housing, and there's a little pointer. Again, I don't know. Let me see if I can get in there and see if you can get to see it. See this? There it is. See that pointer? That pointer is actually how you time this thing, so it's kind of a pain to time. But I'm not going to time it. I'm just going to crank it until I get a little bit of compression there, and then we'll check it if the rotor's close to the number one spark plug. And the good thing about this thing, somebody put yellow tape on it, and the numbers were faded out, but I made them a little darker, except number 6. It didn't have yellow tape on it, but obviously if the rest of them are marked, we know where number 6 is. But I took a Sharpie and marked them again so I could see them better. And here's something interesting that I just found out. So I decided to drain the oil out of this thing, and I kind of wish I'd have showed you guys that, but I didn't think about it. But yeah, when I pulled the drain plug, so this is what came out first. See that? That's basically all water. So that was sitting in the bottom of the pan, which is good. And then, but the good thing is we got nice, dark, really dark black oil that was sitting on top of the water. So, you know, water, I got to find a rag here. Water is heavier than oil. So when you get water in an engine like that, it sinks down to the bottom and the oil sits on top, which means that, you know, in the bottom of the pan you're going to have water, but up here where the crankshaft is, you're going to have oil still protecting everything. So it probably didn't hurt anything inside the motor, but I'll show you what I'm going to do to kind of make sure that I get all that stuff out of there, because when you got water in the engine block like that in the engine, it tends to make kind of sludge everything out. And of course, this oil's been sitting in there for 30 years plus, so you know it's kind of nasty. But one thing I will show you guys that I haven't done yet, I'll take off the oil filter and we'll look at it. Sorry, I bumped my video and it stopped. So the oil runs out of the block, in through here and through the filter, and then back out again and back here to where the oil pressure gauge is. And speaking of oil pressure gauge, I happen to notice that if I can get down in here, there's a line, a plastic line coming out. You can see it right there, coming out of the oil pressure fitting on the side of the block, and it was open, it was broken, so I clamped a pair of vice grips on it to keep oil from spraying everywhere. So that's a good idea. And also found a vacuum line here that's broken, so I shoved a screwdriver into that so you don't have a massive vacuum leak when we try to start this thing. Okay, let's get this oil filter off and take a look at it, because I'm sure it's going to be probably just about as nasty as the oil pan was. So let's see if we can get it off without making too much of a mess. Hopefully not. Okay, there we go, there we go. Oh, oh yeah, you can see that slime, gobbledygook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain this filter, and I'm going to pour diesel fuel in the engine and use this old filter again and try to start the engine and let it run a little bit. And then we're going to take this filter off and put a fresh filter and fresh oil in it. But the reason I'm running diesel fuel through it is I want it to clean out all the sludge out of all the oil galleries, and you know, run down into the pan. Any sludge that's in the pan, it'll help the diesel fuel will help break that up and clean it up. So we'll drain this filter, but let's take it in here and take a look at it, see what we get out of it. It's kind of gross. All right. I think we got a drain. Yeah, we got a drain pan right here. Okay, so we're gonna take this filter. Yeah. Heck, I think even the filter has some water in it. You can see all that goop coming out of there. That's pretty nasty stuff. Oh yeah, it does have water in it. That's not good. But you know, the only way we're gonna get it out is to run something through it and then drain it. So I'm going to let that filter drain for a little bit. That's pretty nasty. I'm going to let that filter drain for a little bit. I hate to reuse it, but if I put a new filter on there and I run oil through it, then I got to change it. Still there? Sorry, I dropped my phone. Anyhow, if I put a new filter on, I got to, you know, waste a good filter running all that goop through it. So I'm just going to use the old one. It's not the most ideal method, but it's going to work. And all right, so we'll get the filter drained, and I'll get some diesel fuel back in there. Well, actually, what I can do while we're waiting on that, let me put my phone back up here on the mount. Okay. All right, sorry, I bumped my phone again. Okay, so let's go ahead and bump this thing over and try to see where we're at on number one cylinder. Okay. So I'm just going to stick my finger in the spark plug hole like this, and I'm going to bump it. There we go, I got compression. Then we're going to look. All right, let's look down here, see what we got. Ugh. Get my phone off the mount here. Okay. All right, so number one spark plug is this one, and it runs to this wire right here. Yeah, that's number one. So right in here, right next to this, where the wire connects to the distributor, should be where our rotor's pointing, pretty close to that. Yep, it's right there. See that? Right on it, right where it should be. So we know that's number one. So we know we're good there. All right, we know we're good there. And the firing order on these things, an easy way that I've always been told to remember the firing order on a 6-cylinder is 15 is too young, 36 is too old, 24 is just right. So 153624. So this and it's always, well, not always, but this is good for, as far as I know, all Chevrolet 6-cylinder engines. It's probably good for Fords and Dodges too. I don't know, but a lot of them are the same. So we got 1 here, 6, or wait, 5, 1 5, 1 5, 3 comes around. There's 3, 6, that goes to 6, and then 2 4. This is 2, and 4 right here. There's 4. Okay, so we got the right firing order. So we should be good to go. So let's put this spark plug back in there, and we're going to see what happens. All right, we're going to put that number 1 spark plug in there, and let's see if we. Well, actually, before we do that, let's hook up everything and see if we got spark. All right, so I'm going to hook up my coil wire. Okay. All right. Let's see. How am I going to do this? I don't know if I can. Well, I was trying to see if it had spark, and it actually fired just now. So I know I got spark. You heard it try to fire, so that's good. I did dump something down the carburetor to kind of lubricate everything, so I guess we should be good to go. So let's put that spark plug in and see what happens. All right. One thing you guys got to remember too, this thing has been sitting inside in a building for the last 30 plus years. So, you know, if it's sitting outside, it'd probably be a lot harder to get started, but sitting inside, kind of protected. Somehow I got water in the engine, obviously, but it didn't get in the cylinders, it just got in the pan. So probably maybe 30 years of condensation, I don't know. It didn't a lot of water, probably half a gallon or so. All right, so we got all the spark plugs plugged in, we got the coil hooked up. I'm going to get my bottle I always use, and we're going to put a little bit of gasoline in the carburetor. Fill up the bowl. There we go. Yeah, we got plenty. Oh yeah, she's leaking everywhere. Okay. All right, let's not have a fire. Okay. All right, here we go. First start in over 30 years. Let's see what happens. We got no oil in it, so we're just going to run it for a second, if it runs. Well, it fired. There you go. Let me get over on this side. And let me do this. Turn this thing up a little bit so you can kind of see what's going on here. Okay. I'm just going to dribble gasoline into the carburetor while I'm trying to start and see what happens here. Well, there we go. work too well. All right, there you go. First start in 30 years. She runs. Woohoo! Okay, well obviously I have no oil in it, so I can't do much until I get that. So I'm going to drain that oil filter, and I think I'm going to take the top off the carburetor and work on it a little bit, see if I can get it freed up because it's probably all gummed up. It does say remanufactured on the side there, which is nice. But I'm going to take the carburetor off and see if I can get it to work a little better. Maybe we can actually put gas in the carburetor and get it to run that way. So let me do that, and then I'll get back to you guys, all right? Okay. You'll notice that I got a new Wix air filter or oil filter on the engine. That other one was just filled with goop, and I just didn't trust it. So I just went ahead and put this filter on the engine to start it up with, and I'm waiting on some tune-up parts. I got the distributor taken apart there. I bought a set of points and a distributor cap, but I bought them for a 48, and they wouldn't fit. And I ran the numbers on this engine and found out this engine is actually a 1954 235-inch six-cylinder engine. And one way you can tell that is the older style had bolts in the center of the valve cover, and the newer style has got 4 bolts on the perimeter, 2 there and 2 there. So this is according to the numbers on it, it's a 54 235 engine out of a 3100 truck. So it's just a newer engine out of the same truck. But it did run. You saw it running yesterday. So, but when I get those parts in, we'll get it running again. So that's where that's at. I haven't messed with that today. Hey guys, real quick on the end of this video, I want to show you guys a couple things I forgot to show you on this truck. So here's something interesting. Here's what 75 years of dirt looks like in the frame. This is literally like an inch thick of gunk in that frame. Look at that. It's like, you can see it. See how deep it is? Look at how deep that is. That's all dirt that's been in the frame for 75 years, piled up in there. And here's an interesting fact about these 235s, at least the early model ones. They had slots in the valve cover. See that right there? And there's 2 more on the other side. So these are actually breather slots, which means that, of course, water can get down in the engine. So that wasn't a very good plan, but that was before they came up with a PCV valve. Those probably need to be welded shut if anybody buys this motor and wants to use it, because that's probably not a good idea to have those open like that. So that's kind of a weird thing about these trucks. And a couple other things. I found this on the firewall, mounted right there in the center. I didn't know what it was, and I got to looking at it. It's actually an underhood light that's been added on here. It's kind of cool. I don't know if it works or not. It's pretty old, but this cap slides off, and you can get to it on the inside to bolt it on. But I'm going to see if I can fix that and put it back on there, because it's kind of a neat little accessory that you probably won't be able to find anywhere. That's kind of cool. And then I'll kind of show the age of this truck and how original it is. So this here, I found this on the frame. This is wire that's actually wrapped in cloth, which is how they made wire in 1948. And this ran along the frame rail to the back there for the taillights and stuff. But this was actually still in the truck. So that just goes to show the originality of this truck. It's pretty amazing that this truck still has got wire on it that's actually 75 years old. But I mean, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to throw it away. But I just wanted to show it to you guys. It's kind of an interesting little thing. And a couple more things here. I was hoping that I could use this gas tank because it doesn't look too bad. It doesn't have any rust holes in it. And I had a real hard time getting these bolts out, screws I should say. And I pulled this sending unit out. And again, it shows the originality of this truck. So this sending unit obviously is garbage. It's rusted to nothing. But it actually has gears. See the gears? So when this arm, when the float goes up, it rotates that gear, which rotates that gear, which rotates the shaft that goes down inside the piece that bolts on top, which has probably a resistor in it or something that changes your fuel gauge. And I'll guarantee you the fuel gauges, the fuel sending units you buy today probably don't look like this. I'd be surprised if they did. But that was a very interesting thing. I've never seen a sending unit that had gears on it, actual gears that move, and a shaft that rotates. That's kind of interesting. And I looked inside the tank and it's full of rust, so I'm not going to be able to use it. It's pretty garbagey. So we're up to get a new tank, no big deal. But I thought that was really cool with that sending unit. I've never seen that before. That's very interesting. And one last thing, I got a little puzzle for you guys. So I was taking stuff off the firewall, and I found this attached to the firewall. Let's see, it was right. Okay, sorry, I'm not doing a very good job here. It was right here, attached to the firewall, and this is the arm that is used for the clutch. Yeah, the clutch. Yeah, I believe. Well, no, actually. No, I take that back. That's the arm that goes to the brake pedal. And this was attached right beside it. Oh, I'm not doing a very good job again, sorry. So it was attached like that, okay? So this arm here contacted the arm that the brake pedal was on. So what do you guys think that is? You guys have any idea what that is? Comment down below and tell me what you think it is. And I don't know if it still works or not, but it's probably a hard piece to find. You can actually see the wear on it right here where my finger is. See how much wear it has on it? This thing is 75 years old, and man, it's been used a lot. It's literally worn, but I could weld that and fill that up with weld and then grind it smooth, and it would be just fine. But I'm curious if this thing still works. But you guys tell me in the comments, what do you think this is? What do you think this is for? And so that's it. Just wanted to show you those things real quick. Just a couple little things, interesting things about this truck. I like to kind of show you guys. So I don't know how many of these are left on these old trucks, but that's kind of a cool piece. Anyhow, thanks for watching again, and we'll keep in touch. Hopefully I get these parts for this motor tomorrow, and we'll fire it up and get it running. And oh, by the way, I know some of you are probably concerned because of the sludge that came out of the oil pan when I pulled the drain plug out. Obviously there's a lot of sludge in there, and there was some water in the bottom. So what I've done, if you've never seen this trick before, what I've done is I've actually poured diesel fuel into the engine oil pan. I poured it through the top there, through the oil spout or oil cap in the top of the valve cover there. I poured it through and let it run through the engine. But I'm actually going to crank this engine over and even start it and let it run for a minute with that diesel fuel in there. And the reason I'm going to do that is because the diesel fuel is going to go through there and it's going to clean out all that sludge, and then we'll drain it and I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll put fresh oil in it. I'm going to use this same filter again. I'm going to drain all the diesel fuel out of it after I run it, and I didn't want to use that other filter, but I'm going to take this filter and drain everything out of it, and then I'll put it back on, and then we'll fill it with oil and run it with oil in it. And I think it'll be just fine. You know, sometimes you got these old motors like this that got water in them, and you got to figure out what to do. They got that sludge in there. You don't know how to get that out of there. Well, diesel fuel works really good to clean all that out. And you don't want to run it for a long time, just like a minute or two at the most. Just enough to get it circulated through the system, and the diesel fuel will wash all that stuff off and clean it off. And diesel fuel, you don't want to use gasoline. Don't use gasoline because it might ignite and blow your valve cover off and your oil pan off. But diesel fuel is a lot less flammable. So if you use diesel fuel on there, it's got some lubricity to it, so it's got lubricating qualities. Again, you don't want to run it for a long time, just a minute or so, and just let it circulate through the system, and then drain it out and put oil in there, and that'll help a lot with getting that sludge out of there. But we'll see what that diesel fuel looks like. It's been sitting in there. I put it in there last night. It's been sitting in there for 24 hours, and it's going to sit in there till tomorrow at least sometime when I get time to start this engine. I got to get the parts and get all put on it and then get it running. I'm going to try to hook a fuel line onto the fuel pump right there. There's a short metal line. I'm going to try to get a piece of line and run it off to the side into a can. And I don't know if that fuel pump's any good or not, but if it is, I've already cleaned the bowl out. That filter's kind of nasty looking, but I need to take it off and blow through it and see if it's clean. If I can use it, then I will. If not, I'll just put a piece of line in there because I'm not worried about any sludge because it's going to have a fresh line going to a fresh tank of gasoline. So I'm going to try to run, if that pump will work, I'm going to try to run gasoline to the carburetor and see if we can actually get it to run for a couple minutes. I mean, I can't run it very long, but I did pull the thermostat out of the thermostat housing, so we can take a garden hose and shove it in the top there and let it run out the bottom there and get some water circulating through the engine so we can run it for a minute or two. So we'll try to do that tomorrow and see how much luck we have, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. So tell me again, what do you think this is? Comment below, tell me what you think it is. I'm curious if anybody knows. All right, thanks, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.